I know. I'm not supposed to be here today. But I am. Hi, everybody. Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology Podcast, August 8th. Figured we'd just have a little family talk here for a minute because some stuff came up. So here's the deal. Doing a daily podcast, I really do try to record these episodes as close to the launch time, which is 3 a.m. Eastern time every day that these are launched, Monday through Friday, and then the Saturday episode gets recorded early Saturday morning. Well, okay, TMI. Sorry. But due to my schedule over the weekend and some stuff going on in my life primarily, yesterday's episode was recorded Saturday morning. And we set up the week by saying it's going to be another light week. Well, here's the deal. By Saturday afternoon in my world, you know, when they say something hits the fan, it hit the fan. And all of a sudden, I was fully on experiencing what I come to find out as we put an announcement on our Facebook page and started talking to some of our listeners that others are experiencing the same. Your fans are getting hit too by the stuff. In fact, one of our great listeners said, hey, I thought you said it was a light week, and yet myself and my child and my mom and my friends, we're all feeling it. So it's like this isn't just some isolated deal. And then on Level Up Sunday night, one of our faithful listeners who gets up in the middle of the night to join us on Level Up, he lives in Europe, had a fall last week, broke his shoulder, and still can't walk because his leg was also affected. And I know each of these people personally, and they are high timeline A-team players. You know, we could find some wisdom in the Bible. This is in the Gospel of John. We don't do this very often here. I do it sometimes on Subconscious Mind Mastery, but there's a story where the religious teachers, who were really the fools of the day, brought this man to Jesus who was blind, and they said, was it his sin or his parents' sin that caused his blindness? That was partially their culture of thinking, as they always had to have a blame or a victim. Who caused this to this poor man? And Jesus said, neither. It was so that the works of God might be displayed through him. Sometimes you don't have to have an explanation. And this is a good time to keep that in mind. But let's go see what the sky has in store, because if you've been feeling the wonky, let's pick it apart and see if we can find it in the sky in some places. Because if you're doing like I am and looking at your honeycomb almanac, you're not seeing a lot of direct aspects this week either, I'll bet. So where do we start looking? Well, let's go back to the week of July 17th. That week began with the North Node moving into Aries, and we talked about that. The opposite South Node, Libra, means that we might tend to favor others over ourselves, even to the point of getting run over by said others. This is the season that for the next 18 months you have cosmic permission to take care of yourself first. In fact, if you have to fight to take care of yourself first. It's the North Node. It is your purpose. It's to push you into something that may not feel so comfortable. Stretch you. Either start a big project that you've always wanted to get off the ground, or you might have to go to war. Fight for something that you want or that you need. Now, hopefully this doesn't turn into 18 months of conflict. I'd rather stay on the positive side and say it's 18 months of starting new stuff. It's stretching yourself into new horizons. It's growing, it's birth, it's spring. It's the robins, Steve Forrest's robins on the porch with their little beaks up in the air saying, I want to live. But remember, those robins have to fight for that life too, and that's the complete picture here. And I think this is a big part of the wonk here that we've been feeling is coming from this North Node in Aries. But also that week on July 20th, so 3 days later, on Thursday, the Sun trined Neptune. That gave us that little bit of strength. But then Mars opposed Saturn that evening on Thursday the 20th. The next day, the Sun was opposite Pluto. There's a lot of tension around transformation right there. Stuff's pulling on you. And then the very next day, Venus turned retrograde, and it's time to start working on ourselves again, back to full circle. And I know some of you are saying, but Thomas, that was almost a month ago. Ever heard of space dust? Don't eclipses last for 6 months? I mean, listen to the power of what happened that week. And now look at where we are, and stuff is still happening that more fits the picture than probably what happened during that week. As above, so below. Sometimes we have to look below and then go back and look above. So what about now? What about this quiet week that we're in right now? Well, I went back to Wednesday of last week just to take a running start at this. And really, there, as I've said on here, not much has changed. But structurally, what we have is the first place that I started to look is where are the potential challenges? Well, you'd look at Mars and Saturn and Pluto first, right? Well, Mars is in Virgo, and it's in a trine to Jupiter. Okay, so there could be some tension there, but it's a trine. I mean, that's not a war symbolism, right? Then we have the Leo-Taurus square, so that's the Sun and Venus in Leo, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. Okay, stop right there. There's a square. There's the potential for some magnified tension. Jupiter. And I know these kinds of things appear, the Sun squares Jupiter twice a year. It doesn't matter where it is, it will find it, right? And then in 6 months, it will be over in Aquarius. So after the first of the year, we'll do this all over again. At least we'll have another square. I don't know what that will look like. But in between, we'll have a couple of trines and sextiles and an opposition. That's the flow, right? But that could be, in my opinion, really the only other hot spot that would be contributing to this in the current sky. And even those yods that were there over the last 2 weeks have broken up. Now we have a new one coming in tomorrow. So picture the witch's hat. It's going to have the south node at the tip and then Neptune and Uranus at the base. That one also has some potential to cause some disruptions, obviously, and some confusion, even some psychosis. But now let's look at where can we lean on? What's the shoulder in this chart or in our lives that we can lean on in order to work through this if you're experiencing the wonk? And to begin, let's look beyond the sky as we began. That maybe there is something going on that is for a higher purpose. Maybe there are lessons to be learned. Maybe there's, for me, I ran my foot into the chair and I think I cracked something in there. I don't know. For my buddy in Europe, maybe there's, hey, we need to slow down. Venus in retrograde is wanting us to do some self-examination. Well, if we're running around all over the place, we can't do that, can we? So the universe says, you're not going to tap the brake yourself. I'll do it for you. Venus is about relationships. So when somebody says, my mother, my friends, my child, myself, it's my whole world. Relationships. Is this to punish? No more than what Jesus told those clowns in his day in that story. No, it's not about you and your judgmental opinions. This is for him and his higher purpose. And that's none of your business anyway. All they could do is shuffle off, I guess. They didn't have anything left. He shut it down right there. Well, maybe there's a higher purpose going on that we don't need the whole explanation right now. In fact, the chart supports that, because if we want places to lean into, let's look at the trines and the sextiles. First of all, Neptune is sextile Uranus. So in the weirdness, there is spiritual growth. Pluto is trine Uranus. So in the weirdness, there is power for our transformation. Mars is trine Jupiter. That's an earth trine. So that's a very powerful, with a lot of fire combined with that earth, to ground. So if you will ground yourself in your own firm foundation, there is power for you there. And then just trusting in a source and a process that is bigger and beyond ourselves at times that we can't figure it out. Mercury is also trine up there to Jupiter. So just give it some grace and some space in order to play out and teach you the lessons that are there for your highest purpose. That's what I'm going to be doing. Join me if you'd like. Thanks so much for listening, and I will be back again tomorrow. Have a great day. Love you. Bye-bye.